So I decided to go on a little personal mission and reread the old Tom Clancy novels in storyline order. Now, ever since Hunt for Red October came out in the late 80s, there were certain rumors that circulated about Tom Clancy. Was he getting information from somebody? Was he an intel agency asset? Was he really just a plant? Was it a government psyop? What was going on? So I decided to kind of go on this little quest of rereading the books and see if there were hints inside the books that would tell us anything, especially if you reread them sort of in storyline order. Especially now that they're starting to go back and fill in some of the blanks, does it really help? And I just finished this one, Patriot Games, which was the second in storyline order, which has a really good movie by the same name, which came directly from the book. Harrison Ford, great film. Um, but the book itself is actually the movie is a really good adaptation of the book. I have to give them credit. They took out some chapters. They didn't make it into the film. They shortened some chapters that didn't make it in the film, but it's a 600-page book that really gets you into the heads of an intel agency asset, intel agency analysts as they go through and try to analyze something that they're looking at. And it spends a lot of time with Jack in his office, Jack Ryan in his office, looking at stuff and trying to make heads or tails out of it and say, okay, was this is really what's going on? Is that really what's going on? How do we get enough data to sort it out? How do we know who has what data so we know what to share? Intelligence agencies do have a problem sharing information. Do I know everything I need, or does that guy over there know more than I do? And maybe he can share that with me, and maybe that'll solve all my problems. And that does become sort of an issue now. This one, other than outside of the movie, so the movie displayed Jack Ryan as later in his career, but they had Harrison Ford playing him, and he was a little older, so you had to kind of do that. In the book, Jack Ryan is actually a very young guy, sort of fresh out of young by comparison to later in his career. Was much younger. They were trying to get him into the CIA the first time. In the movie, they kind of portrayed it like they're trying to get him back, and he doesn't want to go. But everything else is kind of the same. So it. Jack is on vacation in London with his wife. He's researching a book. All of a sudden, there's a terrorist attack right in front of him, and he decides, as a former Marine, I know once a Marine, always a Marine, to dive right in and say, "Can I help? Can I fix the situation?" Now, the thing about this that kind of struck me is they did change who was subject to the attack from the book to the movie. It was a member of the royal family in both cases, but they switched to it was from book to film. But the interesting thing about that was that Tom Clancy went on record a lot to say that who was Jack Ryan modeled after. And he said, "Well, I modeled him after him. He modeled it after himself." And I think that shows you really kind of where Tom Clancy's ego was, because Jack Ryan is like the perfect family man. He's the perfect analyst. He's the, hey, I see a terrorist attack. There's a couple of guys with pistols, AK-47s, and hand grenades. I'm going in there. I'm unarmed. I don't care. And Jack Ryan wins. Normally not a fight you win. But Jack's a Marine, so who knows? Maybe he gets lucky. Of course he did get lucky and win the fight. He was injured in the process, but but I think that says a lot about how Tom Clancy sees himself. He can go up against those odds, man, and he's gonna win every time. Um, but the other thing about it is after that terrorist attack, the terrorists kind of make it personal with Jack, and as a result, the agency had been the CIA had been trying to recruit Jack to come over as an analyst because he'd worked for them as a consultant once, and they wanted to say, hey, you're really good at this. Let's bring you in full time. So now you have this sort of argument that says, hey, you're important to us to help solve this one problem. It's very personal for you with your family. Now we make this full time. And they bring Jack in to look at all the data and try to break down the walls of where what the terrorist org is going to do, which in this case is a little bit dated for modern day, but the book came out a long time ago. And it was actually an Irish terrorist group in London, which at the time was not unheard of. But it does really kind of get inside that spycraft from the analysis side, not necessarily from the spying in the field, James Bond little stuff, kind of, which James Bond wouldn't work anyway, but uh, not in that sort of data gathering side. It deals with it from the intel analysis side, which honestly is one of the most important things in the intelligence agency is taking all these disparate pieces of data and collating them and figuring out where it all goes. And I think that speaks to Tom Clancy's ego as a writer, that he wanted, it's clear in certain parts of the book, he wants us to know how smart he is. He wants us to know how many details he's got. Now, does that make it so that, does that sort of break open the lock on the, was he a intel agency asset, or was he a psyop of the government? I don't know. I think this book really just comes off like he's an egomaniac. It doesn't necessarily, sort of break the ice on anything that wouldn't have been sort of known pretty well, or you couldn't piece together just by thinking about it a little bit. So, from this book, I don't think you can really tell much. From Without Remorse, I don't think you can really tell much. These two, I think, are just shockingly good books to go read. This one is a little more in that inside Jack's head kind of space. Without Remorse is a lot more action oriented. So it is a much different type of story than you found in the previous one. It's still a great one. The movie is fantastic if you haven't seen it. And the movie does hit a lot of the key points in the book. But one of the things I kind of, in retrospect, bothers me about the movie is Robbie Jackson in the book. It plays a much more significant role than Robbie Jackson in the movie. And if you watch the film, Robbie Jackson was played by Samuel L. Jackson, of course, a long time ago. And it might have been interesting to have him play a larger role, but hindsight's always 2020, right? It's still a great film and great book. If you have not read it, definitely worth the time. Tom Clancy was certainly a master of his craft, if nothing else. So, I'm going to dive into the next one, which the next one in order of chronologically as far as the storyline goes is Red Rabbit, which is set in 1982, and Patriot Games is sort of 81, 82 someplace. And then we get to Hunt for Red October, which is 84, and then one of the new books, which is Red Winter, is 85. I haven't read that one before, but these I've heard before. So does this one bust open the sort of, shell of, was he an asset or was he not? I don't see it. I think he was an egomaniac, at least from this book. We'll keep reading and see where it goes. Um, if you agree with me, drop a comment down below. If you think, there's no way he was an asset, let me know. If you think, oh, there is a way he was an asset, let me know that too. Because I'm 51-49, and depending on the day, you could talk me into the way. This is one of those few conspiracy theories. I'm like, there could be something to that one. For the record, other conspiracy theories, I do think we landed on the moon. That's not a fake. I don't think there's aliens at Roswell. And I think the guys from Ancient Aliens have just figured out how to spin their weird ass hobby into a great pile of money. But Tom Clancy, great guy, great writer, if nothing else, highly entertaining. Check it out.